Now that Joe Biden has essentially secured the presidency, save for some last-minute Donald Trump tomfoolery, there's a clear path to being inaugurated in January. However, there are still a few hurdles to clear and hoops to jump through. One of the main upcoming challenges for any president is not dying. But what happens if a president-elect kicks the bucket before they have a chance to take office? That's right, you read the title and you clicked on it. Here we go. What if Joe Biden passed away? Let's get right to it. This might seem like a pretty dark question, but plenty of folks are gonna ask. Joe Biden is indeed the oldest president-elect in the history of the United States of America. With his recent foot injury, folks have been reminded that he is only human after all. Of course, a fracture isn't gonna kill him, but life is unpredictable. First, let's go over the formal procedure for when a president-elect unexpectedly passes. There are two important dates to keep in mind during this process: December 14th, which is when the Electoral College does their official vote, and January 6th, which is when Congress certifies the vote. Right on, checks and balances, all that good stuff. So if Joe Biden were to bite the big one in the sky before the vote, the DNC would have to supply a new person to take his place. Then they would have to do one heck of a job convincing electors to still put their votes through blue. It actually probably wouldn't be that tough. It wouldn't be too far of a stretch to assume that the votes would go forward with very similar results to what we've already seen. In that case, we'd probably see the Democrats present the world with their Vice President-elect, Kamala Harris, and the electors would more than likely push her through as president. Either that or they'd leave Biden's name on the ballot under the assumption that Harris would take over anyways. However, if Biden were to pass away after the Electoral College vote but before the congressional certification, things would become a little more complicated. Congress members could get the opportunity to switch their votes, but this is only if both chambers agree, which is highly unlikely. But if he were to croak after the certification but before his inauguration, there is an amendment for that. The 20th Amendment states that if at any time fixed for the beginning of the term of the president-elect shall have died, the vice president-elect shall become president. So that's pretty clear cut. At this point, we're pretty much guaranteed a Joe Biden presidency, but if something were to happen, Kamala would be next in line. There isn't much room for anything else, although I'm sure the Republicans would fight hard at any opportunity to sway the vote. So if Biden doesn't make it to the Electoral College vote, we might see some faithless electors make their way down the aisle. This is generally frowned upon though, and some states even have strict punishments for those who would vote against the public results. If someone changed up their vote post-mortem, it would cause a huge stink. Right, so that's the official answer. If Joe Biden passed away, in all likelihood Kamala Harris would be the next president of the United States. Which comes with a whole slew of new issues, of course. Outside of the official election procedures, you can be sure that the Trump campaign would do everything in their power to take advantage of the death of their political opponent. After seeing the lengths they went to in order to prolong the election concession, it wouldn't be surprising to see their efforts redouble. Arguments could be made to restart the voting process, change electoral votes, or throw everything out the window. Whether there's any legitimacy to these claims is totally up in the air, but any chance to throw a wrench in the operation would be taken. And that would just be the beginning. We know folks love their conspiracies and gossip, so of course there'd be plenty of rumination about mysterious circumstances surrounding Biden's death. Was it an inside job? Did someone in the party see weakness and decide that it was Kamala's time to shine? Was it a setup from the beginning? Is this the new era of socialist communist apocalypse? Sorry if that seems a little far-fetched, it just seems like that's the way everything ends up these days. You can't do anything without being called an unpatriotic, freedom-hating lib. We love it. I can see all the headlines and Facebook pages now. What an era of chaos a Biden death would usher in. Folks would question Kamala's ability to lead as well as the legitimacy of her presidency, and it would not stop for ages. 4 years of half the country totally opposed to every single thing the president does. It kind of sounds like the last 4 years, doesn't it? Maybe the 4 years after that too. How far does that go back? Man, they've got to find some more universally likable candidates over there now, don't they? Well, I think that just about sums it up. If Joe Biden passed away, the folks at the Electoral College would likely still vote the way they would have before, leading to a Kamala Harris presidency. Then there'd be the inevitable fallout from both sides as folks adjusted to the way things were. Left-leaning people probably wouldn't change too much, while folks on the right would likely attempt to have the vote changed. There would be all sorts of conspiracies and theories, and of course, lots of arguments. What a wild ride, eh? In the end, I don't think there's too big of a risk of Joe Biden passing away. Sure, he's a historically old president, but he is healthy and active. He'll be a booted president for a while after his fracture, but that shouldn't interfere too much with his duties in office. So, what do you think? Would the United States descend into chaos if their president-elect died? How do you think Donald Trump would react? Will we get some younger candidates next time? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more fleeting ones from Who is Kamala Harris. Switch Player 101 says, why does she always sound like that one aunt at Thanksgiving who's had more than 2 glasses of wine? Well, if you had all those responsibilities, you'd reach for glass 3 as well. Jaleel Williams says, my toe hurt. Mine too. How'd you stub yours? Shadow says, wow, she was the first of a lot of things, huh? No, absolutely. It's crazy how prolific one person can be. People's Republic of Logan Star says if she'll be president one day. That's actually a really good question. Maybe she'll follow the Joe Biden path and become president after a couple terms as VP. And that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.